Last class I have told you, right? So I'll be discussing about the full outer join. Actually, in this SQL, MySQL version,
Yes.
version 8.0, it doesn't support the full outer join. The query is perfect, but it doesn't support the full outer join. So if you want to work on full outer join, you can use the Postgresql or SQL Server. So there you will be able to use full outer join. But if you want to use full outer join in MySQL, what you have to do is you have to incorporate other joins like inner join, left join, and out join. So full outer join is the combination of inner join, left join, and right join, right? So you can use all these three joins to make use of the full outer join in MySQL. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
So if you have downloaded PostgreSQL, there you can use full outer join. That will work. Okay, so I have put this query in comment line, so you'll be able to see this query when you're working with PostgreSQL. Okay. So next, the one more join which is remaining is that self join, right? So what is the inner join? What it will do?
It will fetch all the values.
Okay, it is like an intersection between two tables. Okay, which contains all the common values. It will fetch all the common values. Okay, so as for the left join,
it will fetch values left table even if it has null values in right table.
It will perform inner join first, and then what it will perform is it will take additional values in the left side table.
Additional records.
Okay, so that is what your left join will perform. So your right join, it will first perform the inner join, and it will take the additional records in the right side table. Okay?
Right table.
Very good. So cross join, I have already told you. Okay. So it will match every record from one table to the another table. Okay. So in cross join, you don't need the on class. As for the left join and right join, inner join, you need an on class. So what your on class will do? What you will be providing in your on class? So what is in our on class? You will tell the SQL that these two columns are common in both these tables. Okay, so try to find the common values from these two columns and fetch the values. Likewise, you're going to tell the SQL to match these two columns, two common columns. Okay, so according to the columns, it will perform the joins there. Okay, so what your natural join will do? What is the difference between inner join and natural join?
It is union and inner join is intersection.
No. Actually, a natural join, what will happen is in natural join, you will not use on class. Like the cross join, you will not use the on class in your natural join. Okay. So your SQL, your SQL itself will try to find the common columns according to the name. I have shown you the example, right? That it will check whether in an employee table, if there is a department ID, it will check whether the same name is present in the department table. If it find out the two same name, it will compare automatically. Your SQL will perform the on class by itself. Okay, so that is why your natural join is not recommended. Just because you may be having the different column names in each table. Like here in employee table, you will be having one second, let it run. Okay, in employee table, you are having department ID. Okay, so in department table, you are having DID, but both these two columns stores the data which are same. Okay, only the column name varies. Okay, so your natural join will perform the same thing as inner join when these two column names are same. If it is different, it will perform the cross join. Okay, so that's why the inner join is prefers over the natural join. Okay, are you able to understand this?
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so next, I think I have discussed all the joins except the self join. Oh. So as for your self join, what will happen is you will perform join operation on a same table. Okay, we'll perform the join operation on the same table. Here I am having employer table. What you will do is you will check some conditions on this tables, the same table. So let me try to do some query on this. Select, okay, select e dot employee underscore name, comma e2 dot employee underscore name from okay, from employer e self join employer e2 okay, so it seems self join is also not going to work in MySQL 8.0 version. So we will try the full outer join and self join when we are working with the Python. Okay, I will show you how to create a database in Python. So at that time, we will work on with the self join, or after I have downloaded the Postgresql, I will show you the full outer join and self join. Okay, so it seems it doesn't support self join also. So let's move on to our new topic called the views. Okay, so I'll show you self join in the Postgresql. Okay, fine. So let's move on to the new topic, that is views. So what is a view is that we'll be having some SQL queries, like some select queries we are having, right? So we are having some SQL queries. We are going to create a view on that particular query. Okay, so why do we need that and all? I will tell you in the further explanation. Okay, so first thing is view is a database object created over a SQL query. Okay, and the next one is your views does not store any data. It will only store the structure of the table. Okay, it will not store any data. I'll be creating the table and the values like this name, ID, department ID will be storing in the database, right? But when you're creating views, what will happen is it will only store the structure. Okay, it will not store the data. Okay, your view will be when you're creating the view and when you're calling the view, it will perform your SQL query internally. So I will explain it when doing the query. Okay, so and you can see that your view is a virtual table. It doesn't exist. It's just a virtual table. It doesn't store any data. Okay, so let's see how to create a view. So let me remove this thing. So views, to create a view, what you have to do is you have to use the keyword create. Okay, and then view, and then you have to give the name for the view. So what is the common condition for giving the name? How do you give the name? A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z? Spandana, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So how do we, when you are using the variable names and all, how do you give the name? How your name should be?
In double quotes.
No, not like that. Your name should be a meaningful one. Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a view to show the employer name. Okay. So employer underscore name, that is the view name. Okay. And then as, then you have to give the query. Here, for example, select employer name from employer table. Okay. So this is how you have to create your view. Okay. Create view, and you have to provide the name for the view, and then you have to use the keyword as, and then whichever select query you are going to use, you have to provide that query here and end it with the semicolon. Okay. So now let me run this. So after I run that, it has created a view, employer name. So now if you want to view this, what you have to do is you have to use the keyword select star from employer name. So it will provide your employer name. Okay. So what it will do is, when you're calling your view name, okay, so it will internally execute the code query which you have provided. Okay. So it will internally execute the query which you have provided when you call the view name here. Okay. So and what is the purpose of view? For example, here at the time I'm the only user which I'm using this database. Okay. So, but in the office, but in your, when you're working, you're not the only one person who will be using this database. There will be many person accessing the database. Okay. So at the time, you cannot reveal all the credentials or all the table names to everyone, to every user. You cannot reveal everything. Okay. There are certain things like this person can view, can access the certain kind of data only. Like that, there will be some conditions. So at the time, for the security purpose, what you can do is you can create a view. You don't want others to know about the query, or you don't want others to know about the column names and everything. You don't want to reveal everything to others. So you can simply give the query here, and then you can create the view, and then you can give the view name there. So they can simply use the view name. They can only view the data. Okay. So for security purposes, we'll be using the view here. That is one thing. And another thing is to simplify the complex queries. We have used joins, right? So for I have used single line to show you the example for joins. But when you're working in the office, there will be some 100 or 200 lines of query. Okay. So at the time, you're going to give that query to someone who want to access the data. So what will be happening is that person is not so good at SQL queries. Okay. So at that time, you can create a view and you can simply give the view name to that user. They can simply use the query select store from like under view name. Okay. So and each and every time you don't need to provide provide to the user. Okay. To simplify the complex queries also, we'll be using the views here. Are you able to understand till now? Do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am. Got it.
Okay. So Again, I'm going to run this query. So here you can see we have already created the view. Employee name is already exist. So when you are running this query, it will say you have already created it. Okay. So to avoid this error, what you can do is we can use the another keyword called create or replace. Okay. If it is already created, what it will do is it will replace it with the new one. Okay. So for that we can use the create dot replace. Now when I run this query, it executed. Again I'm running this, it's executed. So multiple times you can execute the query with the same view name if you use the keyword or replace with the create one. Okay. So you will be avoiding this error here when you are using or when you are using the view with the or replace. Okay. So, but there are certain conditions you need to understand when you are using the or replace. Okay. The first thing is you cannot change the column name. So here I'm having the select employee name. Okay. So I'm going to change the column here. Employee. Okay. I'm just going to run this line only, not the create view. Okay. I'm going to just run this line only. Okay, so let me copy this and run this here. So I'm going to simply run this. So it's just going to show me the employee Rahul, Ravi, Ram, David, and Raj. Okay. So when you are using in the normal one, it take the alias employee. Okay. But when you are creating this, when you're creating the view, you cannot provide this alias. Okay. Okay. So you cannot change the column name there when you are creating the views. Okay. So like that you cannot change any columns or any data types when you are using the create or replace. Okay. So if you want to do that, you have to use the query called alter view. Okay. If you want to change the view name, you can use the alter view query. If you want to change the column name, you can use the alter query. Okay. So let me show you how to do that. So okay, so alter view, and you have to provide the view name here. What is our view name?
Employer name.
Okay. Employee name. Okay. And then rename. Okay. And then if you want to rename any column, you have to provide the column name. Employee underscore name to. Okay. So what can we do? Employee. Ended with semicolon.
Now, view name is employer name. No?
Sorry?
View name is employer name.
Okay.
We kept as.
I think it is not going to work. Let me run this. Okay, so I think we have to change the version, MySQL version, so it is not working on many queries. So I think we have to read the documentation for this current version of MySQL. Okay, we will see it when we are working on with Postgresql. I will show you which are the queries which are not working here. I will show those things when we are going to work with the Postgresql. Okay. So let me
make a note of the queries that are not working.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is not working in the MySQL 8.4 version. So 1 minute. Full outer join.
Self join.
Alter view. So alter table is working here. Alter view is not working here. So I think in this version we can simply use alias here, but in the previous versions we cannot use alias here. So that's why they have removed the alter query. It seems so. Okay, so in the previous versions you cannot change the column name and data types. It seems that in this version you can replace the columns names here itself. So when I'm running this code, it's working here. So it's working perfectly. That's why I think they have removed the alter view query, it seems, in this current version. So in the previous versions, you cannot use the alias here. Okay. Likewise, you cannot change the data type of a single column when you're using the view in the previous version of MySQL. And another thing is that having the employer name here. So likewise, let me comma employer ID. Okay, so now let me run this code. So this code has been executed. I'm selecting is shown here. So now in the middle of this employee name and employee ID, I'll try to add a new column. I'll try to add a new column. What are the things in our employer? Okay. So let me add the department ID in between this. Now let's run this query. So here it is also working here. So department ID. Okay, so in the previous version, what will happen is if you try to add a department ID in the middle of the already existing structure of the view, what will happen is it will not accept it. Okay, so try to do that in Postgresql, so you'll be able to understand that. Okay, so in current version, it is working. So in the previous version, if you try to add a new column in between the already existing structure of the view, it will not accept it. You can end the new column at the end of the structure, but you cannot add it in the middle. Okay, so that will cause some issues. So when you're working with PostgreSQL, so that time you will be able to understand those things and all. Okay, so in the current version, it is working properly. Okay, and then if you want to delete this view, you can use the keyword drop view. So what it will do is it will delete your already existing view. Drop view, and then you have to provide the view name here. Employer underscore name. So now let's run this query. So the query has been executed. Now let me try to use the select query here. So what is happening is that employee name doesn't exist. So this is what your drop view employee name will do. Okay. Are able to understand all this? Do you have any doubts?
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Okay. So likewise, you can even insert into the table. Likewise, you can even update your view using the update query. Okay. So let's try to do the view with the multiple tables, like a join. Okay. So let's try to perform the join here. So now tell me the join for employer and department table, anything you wish. Here is our employee table. So select any 2 tables from this 4 and try to perform join here. Tell me the query. You are telling, let me do it.
Select
Okay, select from. So don't you need to choose some column names?
Yes, we have to.
Okay. So yeah, tell me the column names which you want to select from the employee table.
Project ID.
Okay. Project ID.
ID.
Okay.
From
From
employer.
Employer. And then try to perform inner join here with the department or project. Try to perform. Okay, so if you're going to perform. Okay, 1 minute. So if you're going to perform joins, what is going to happen? You will be performing join when you're going to have more, when you're going to work with more than one table. At the time, you will be performing inner join, left join, right join. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you are going to join, you have to use keyword inner join and which table you are going to join. So for example, let me select project. In project table, we are having the project ID, right? So
yeah,
inner join. Okay. And the table is project. Okay, so you are going to join employer and the project. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to perform the we are going to select the columns. Okay, like employee name and project name according to the project ID. Employer name, okay, comma project underscore name. Okay, so which employee is working in which project? Okay, so comma. Okay, from employer inner join project. Okay, so your SQL query need to know, right? So where your employer name exists, at which table your employer name exists, and at which table your project name exists. Okay, so at the time what you can do is you can add employer.employee name, or else you can use alias here as P. Okay, you can simply use alias here. So it will choose the employee name from employer table and project name from project table. Okay, so now then we have to use, since we are going to perform the inner join, we have to use the on class here, right? Right?
Yes.
So on.
Yes.
Okay. On. Then
E dot employee name.
No. So when you are performing join here, what you have to do is you have to find out the columns which contains the common values between these two tables. So let me choose the employee table. So in employee table, we are having the project ID. Okay, and in project table, we are having the project ID. But both the column names are different. Here the column name is PROJ underscore ID. But here it is project ID. Okay, so if you're going to perform natural join, our column name should be the same one. Okay, here we are going to perform the inner join. Okay, so here we don't need our column name should be same, just because we are going to tell SQL compare these two columns. Okay, compare project ID from employee table equal to project ID from project table.
Project.
Okay, and end it with semicolon. Okay, you can create a view with the multiple tables. You can even perform a join on these two. Like, for example, you can add join, left join. After on class, you can even add left join and where you want to, which table you want to join here. Okay, likewise, you can perform there. It doesn't mean that only two tables can be joined. You can add continuous joins, like in a, if you want to perform left join or right join, you can add that and you can add the select query there also. Okay. So let me run this. So your view has been created. So let me see what is there. So it gives us the employee name and the project name on which they are working. So since all the employees are working in all the projects, it has been given here. Okay. Are you able to understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now let's try to change this. Let's try to add alias here as employee as project. Now select the query. Okay. So it will change that. Okay. Are you able to understand this?
Yes,
any doubts?
It will change the names, no?
Yeah, it will change the names. Column names, it will change. Okay, yeah. So you are able to understand views now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So there is another thing in the views. So let me see. Here we are having projects, right? So project name are there. So you can use the condition called with check option when you are going to. So let me remove this. So select star from select star from project, okay, where project name equal to ABCD. Okay, so at the time what will happen is the user who is working on the ABCD projects, just imagine he is working on the ABCD project and he wants to access the data. So what you can do is you can only access the data which is belongs to ABCD. If you want to insert data, he can insert data which belongs to the project ABCD only in the project table. Okay, so likewise you want to give some condition for that. Okay, at that time what you can do is you can use the keyword called with check option. You can use the keyword with check option. So let me put it in the comment line. Okay, so let me run this query. And here, so it only gives the data which has the project name ABCD and the team working on the project A3 and A5. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter some data. I'm going to enter some data into the employer name. Insert into employer name values. Okay. So since our project ID is varchar, so just put it in the quotation, comma, and then project name XYZ. Okay. Comma, and the team working on it. T10. T10. Let me run this query. So what it is saying is, it's saying that check option is there. So we have provided the check option here. So other than the project name ABCD, if you want to enter any other project name here, it will not accept it. Okay. It will show you error there. So you can make that you are going to create a new user, multiple users are there. If they want to insert any, so you are not going to give them this. You are not going to give the select query there. You're only going to provide them with the view name only. So what they can do is they want to change some values. So when they are running this view, when they're executing this view, they're able to see project ID is the name is the team working ID is there. So they want to enter a new data. Okay. So they want to enter a new data. So at that time they are trying to enter a new data with XYZ. But what we have done is we have provided the check option here. So with the check option, what that employee can do is they can enter new data that belongs to the project ABCD. Okay. So if I change this to ABCD, okay, at the time what will happen is this query will work. So see, this query will work. Now when I select this query, select star from employee name, the new project ID has been entered. Okay. So if you remove the check option, you can enter any kind of data into the project table. But if you're using the check option, what will happen is you can only enter the ABCD. So when your check option will work is when you are using the var class. When using the var class, at the time only you can use the check option here. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So, but in case in the previous query we have used multiple tables, right? In the previous query we have used the multiple tables like employee project ID, and we have used the alias like employee for employee name and project for project name. Okay. So at that time what will happen is you cannot enter the insert new values there. When you are working on with the multiple tables, you cannot enter the new values. Okay, here we have created the view for a single table project. So we are able to insert the new values. But when you are working with the multiple tables, at the time you cannot do that. Okay.
We
So,
cannot use insert option for adding multiple table values.
so when you are creating the views for multiple tables by using inner join or outer join, something like that. So what is happening is there you are using the multiple tables. So you are going to access columns from different tables. Okay. So at the time you cannot use the insert option to insert the values.
Okay.
Now I have inserted the values through view right. So let me show you the project table here. Select star from project. So let me run this. So here, yeah, it had even though I have added the values through view, it has affected the project table. Okay. So, but when you are using the multiple tables, your query doesn't know you are using multiple columns from different tables. So it cannot add the values there. So that's why you cannot add values when you are using insert query on views when you are using the multiple tables. Okay. Are you able to understand this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope you have understand the views here. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to talk about the triggers. Like when you are going to insert, update, or delete, we will be using those queries in our table, right? So at the time when you are inserting or before inserting or after inserting on the table, if you want to check some condition, okay. So if you want to check some condition, you can use the triggers there. Okay. So let's see how the triggers works. Okay. So for creating the trigger, what you have to do is you have to use the keyword called delimiter. Okay. And then for delimiter, you can give any symbols. I'm giving just double slash here. Okay. Then you have to create a trigger there. Create trigger. And then you have to give the name for your trigger. So let me view my employer table. So what are the things in my employer table? Okay. So create trigger. And what I'm going to do is I want to check like if the department ID is D11 or D12 like that. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to set the department ID to D1 or D2 like that. Okay. So let's create a trigger for department ID. Okay. And then what you have to do is you have to give the condition like after inserting or before inserting. Okay, you want to create a trigger after inserting the query or before inserting the query. Okay, so make you before and then so 1 minute, let me give the syntax first. Create trigger name, and then you have to provide before or after. Okay. After that, what you have to provide? You have to provide whether it is a insert or update or delete. Okay. And then you have to provide on where at which table you are going to perform this trigger. So you have to provide the table name there. Okay. And then for each row you are entering. Okay. So and then you have to use the for each row. Then use the keyword begin, and inside the keyword you have to give the condition. For example, if condition then set values. Okay, according to the column, set the column equal to the setting values. Afterwards, what you have to do is you have to use end if, okay, and then we have created delimiters, right? So I haven't mentioned delimiters here. Delimiter, and you have to end the delimiter. After end if, you have to end the delimiters. Okay, and then we have begin there. You have to end that also. Are you able to understand this? Are you able to understand this? This is how you have to create a trigger. Before inserting or after inserting the row into your table, if you want to check some condition, like somewhat I have entered the age greater than 100. Okay, so at the time I can change the age to 1 or 2, like however I want it. Okay, so now I want to create trigger. So for trigger for department ID, so I'm going to create the trigger before inserting the value on the table employer. Okay, for each row, and then I want and use the keyword begin if, then use the keyword new dot department underscore ID equal to, giving the quotation, D11 or something. Okay, then what I want to do is I want to change that. Then set new dot department underscore ID, okay, equal to D2. Okay, and then I want to end if, then end delimiter. You are able to understand this? Any doubts?
Once again, the trigger thing.
Once again, the trigger. Okay. So what you want to do is, if you want to check some conditions, it's like a small stored procedure. So I will explain what is a stored procedure in the next one. Okay. So before inserting the values or before updating or deleting the values, if you want to perform some conditions, it has to satisfy the condition. So if it satisfies the condition, you can insert or delete or update that. Okay. So for that, we are going to create a trigger, and we are going to provide a name for the trigger. Okay. And then we are going to give the condition, like whether you want to check it whether before insert update or delete or after insert update or delete. Okay, you want to check the condition here, and to work on that condition, you are using the keyword begin, and then you are going to provide the condition here using the if class. If and which thing you want to change here, you can use it here. Like if I have mistakenly entered department ID equal to D11. So before inserting the values, it has to change the department ID to D12. Okay. Are you able to understand this? It will check, it is like a validating. So when you are entering the email ID and all in your you're going to visit some website, you're entering some email ID, you have mistake, you haven't provided at Gmail or at Yahoo something. What it will show? It will show you some pop-up message like your email ID is not valid. Am I right? It will show you that, right? If you mistakenly entered an email ID without using the at Gmail or without using .com in your column, it will show you in the website, it will show you that email ID is not valid.